Good morning, everyone. Today we'll be recording an interview as part of our Principles of Management Economics course for our experiential learning part. My name is Sai Abhiram M. I'm studying currently in RV College of Engineering, CSE, CSD section. And then two of my teammates, they'll introduce themselves now.
Yeah, I'm Sathvik of 5th SEM CSE branch.
I'm Sharanya Narendran from 5th SEM CSED.
Yes, today we have the privilege of speaking with Ms. Priyanka, who is currently working in the field of business operations and analysis. She has an extensive experience in areas such as financial planning, budgeting, P&L management, revenue forecasting, cost analysis, and workforce planning. Over the course of her career, she has led multiple small, medium, and large teams and has played a significant role in operational decision making and business strategy. It is really a privilege for us to have you here as part of our interview for the coursework. I would request Ms. Priyanka to introduce herself so that we can finish the ice breaking and then get on to asking a few questions so that we can gain some insights.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. It's nice to be a part of a platform like this. So I am Priyanka Chandrasekhar, currently working as an associate director at Astrea Consultancy. It's primarily a US-based IT services company based out of San Jose, California. So we have an office here in Hyderabad in India. So currently, I lead a team of 4 people, primarily revolving around business operations and analysis, which focuses on financial planning, budgeting, forecasting, workforce planning, as Abhi also introduced. So Astrea as a company currently caters to providing managed IT services solutions and basically assisting business in their efforts to keep up with the never-ending change in technology and basically end user services as well. So it's we have close to around 2,300 employees spread worldwide and located in about 40 odd countries and and close to around a revenue of around 250K US million USD. So yeah, that's about me. Thanks for having me on this platform. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we can start with the first question. And my first question is a very simple one. So, if you could walk us through your career journey and how you transitioned into business operations and analysis and how you got into this field.
Okay. See, basically, I have an engineering background, just like all of you guys. I've done my engineering in electronics and communication. Post which I took some amount of an IT experience working into coding, on coding, etc. Was a part of Infosys, Accenture, and those of the like. Post which I went on to do an MBA in University of Aberdeen in Scotland. Completed my course, and primarily because it is business management, that's when I sort of transitioned into more on the management side of things and got into roles that primarily involved process improvements, analysis, and that's how transitioned into business operations. So MBA was primarily in marketing and finance, so that's where I sit right now. And anyway, I've always been realized that the impact of data driven decision making is extremely important for an efficiency in an organization. So that's how I've transitioned into the role. I started off as a resource management consultant, then moved into financial planning, as an individual contributor, and finally been able to mentor a lot of young folks just out of college as freshers, and today leading, a team, a good team of experienced people. Yeah.
Yeah, so now that's a very interesting interesting journey that you have explained. So, how was your role evolved from being an individual contributor, as you said, for resource management? You started off, and then now it
Mhm.
probably you're managing a lot of people who themselves are very experienced and skilled. So, how does it feel like different from when you were an individual to a manager?
See, okay. So as an individual contributor, right, you're usually focused on what you need to do, your execution and what analysis that you're working on. So it's a lot focused on what uh, as a person that you're doing. So when you get into the shoes, so there are two things. So one is being a manager and one is being a leader. So what I typically follow is being a leader. So if you are a leader, you're primarily focused on how you look at it from at a large in a larger picture, right? You're trying to drive strategy, you're mentoring your team, and also you're trying to ensure that you're aligning across multiple other cross-functional teams and other departments. So and also ensuring that everybody in your team is able to deliver what they're supposed to deliver through the lens of you. So that's primarily, as an IC, you're always focused on what you need to deliver. But as once you're in a leader position, you need to take care of multiple other people and ensure they deliver up to the expectations of what the organization wants. So you need to be much of a team player and lead the team to reaching there.
Yeah, as you said, leading is a whole lot different from just managing, and then you have to deal with a lot of people who probably have different work patterns, and then they probably work or operate in a different way. So, what does a typical day or week look like in your particular role?
Oh, okay. So see, how typically, if you look at it from any IT services company kind of a thing, right? So usually you have a setup where you run your daily stand-up meetings where you touch base with your team on a daily basis, plan for your day, plan for your week ahead if not for the entire weeks that come across, but it's primarily planning for the day. What do you have in store for today? What do you need to deliver for today? So your typical day starts with a daily stand up with your immediate team. And through the week, you always have alignments with your your N plus one and his N plus one, the larger leadership team. And also it's more on, so right now with my role, it's primarily around, on a weekly basis, reviewing your usual performance metrics and aligning, as I said, with multiple cross-functional teams. In my case, it's primarily your delivery, your finance, your HR, and your CXOs is primarily who I deal with. So when I say CXOs, it's usually CEO, CO. So my company, we are typically a closed net. It's just a 2,300 company, not a huge MNC where you have lakhs of people, right? So your focus and your entire focus is around the set of people that are there around you. So you have access to that level of leadership also here, which is probably a really good thing that you get exposed to. And also working on multiple strategic initiatives that is driven from an organization standpoint, etc., right? So that's how typically a day, week, and month looks like, a quarter looks like. You run monthly reviews and quarterly business reviews to look at what the health of the company is, what better can we do, what have we gone wrong with, etc. So that's how typically it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so we would also like to ask you questions about your decision-making strategies and what strategies you use while solving problems. So when you're making a financial or operational decision, what
Mhm.
frameworks or thought processes do you rely on?
Okay. See, whenever you talk about numbers, finance, etc., right? It's always data driven. So data is your key to any financial decision that you take. So it's primarily I rely primarily on data driven analysis, looking at what historically we have done and what currently it looks like, and plan the scenario and weigh your risks and also evaluate what things can happen. So often, I don't know, some tools like, your SWOT or cost benefit analysis, those kind of frameworks usually come into play when we try to take these decisions. Sometimes it sounds a lot theoretical, but you might talk about SWOT, but it sounds a lot theoretical, but you're an actual you're applying it. You might not realize that you're using such frameworks, but it is somewhere there at the back of your entire analysis that you do and you drive. But data is key. So data driven analysis is extremely important when you talk about numbers.
Okay, so have you ever faced a situation where the data contradicted your intuition, and how did you handle it?
Uh, See, basically, it's like, as I said, right? Data is key. Sometimes it's also through experience you do develop some kind of an intuition. So if for example the market suggests something that, for example, you're slowing on investments or something, but your intuition would say, okay, maybe there is a rise that would happen, a demand would come in and it would rise that way, right? So it's also about how deep you analyze and run probably some, what do you call that, pilot programs, etc., right? Uh, which probably have proved that data is much more needed in that context than your intuition. I'm not saying intuition doesn't work, but in a fast-paced world like this, I have always tried to rely on what data is, but also with experience, you gain the intuition also, which sometimes comes handy when you have to take some faster decisions, when you don't have too much time to analyze what has happened. So that time, probably your intuition can come into play.
Okay, and how do you balance short-term operational needs with long-term business strategy?
Okay, that's a difficult one, right? So, um, see, what I do is I try to probably, prioritize, immediate operational stability, if I can call it, right? While also trying to ensure that the decisions that I take sort of ladder up to a long-term goal. So you usually have milestones, but by setting phased milestones, how do you ladder up to meet those long-term goals? So that's how you sort of try to balance and prioritize your through operational stability.
Oh, okay, now we would like to know more about how you do budgeting, forecasting, and P&L management. So,
So,
what key metrics or KPIs do you track regularly to assess business health?
okay, so any typical company, your key KPIs when I talk about finance is the first thing that comes is revenue and revenue growth, right? And then we always talk about margins, profits. So your gross margin is another key KPI that we look at, and also what we call as utilization. So utilization is how you're currently utilizing your people. So in an IT service company, it's all about people. So how you're utilizing. So utilization rate is primarily some another KPI. Then of course your operating costs come into play, and your CSATs. CSATs are usually your customer satisfaction, scores, etc. So these are some of the key metrics, and also your savings. So what costs, as I said, one is of course operational costs, but savings, what are you trying to do in terms of saving costs, where you're doing automation, you're bringing in people with a lesser cost, building a fresher model in your company, etc. So these are some of the key KPIs that I would look at.
Okay. How do you approach revenue forecasting when market conditions are uncertain?
uh, See, basically, as I said, right, it's a lot data driven historically, and also scenario kind of a modeling that you do. So you look at what your year seems like, what your pipelines are like, discuss with your delivery, discuss with your sales folks to see what the year kind of looks like. And also you need to do a bit of a sensitivity analysis also, and then always try to be conservative on your baseline so that you account for that volatility in your market trend. So that's how you probably forecast during an uncertainty.
Okay.
So yeah, good. Yeah.
Can you share an example where financial analysis led to a major cost saving or growth opportunity?
Hmm. Okay, let me think about this. So see, we do a lot of cost analysis, right, on a day-to-day basis of what is happening. So, and of course, being an IT services company, um, you tend to have a lot of vendor contracts, etc. Right? So there was this time, of course, that through analysis, when you're doing all this cost analysis, you do recognize that there is some underutilization of the vendor contracts that actually happened. So then you end up starting to look at it, then renegotiate your contracts and try to save significant amount of cost, which also ended up actually freeing a lot of your budget, and use that budget for further growth or invest it somewhere where there is a need. So that is one thing that just got at the top of my mind. In my previous experience, this did happen where we underutilized the vendor contracts. Yeah.
Okay. What are the most common mistakes which teams usually make during the budgeting cycles?
Okay. So teams meaning, so this is something that I've also probably done and learned from it, right? So one is overestimating revenue. So you always tend to look at it. A lot of things, revenue. It's eventually a forecasting, but you also need to look at it at a person in a percentage format. So try to forecast. Don't under forecast. Don't over forecast. So it did happen. So the common thing is you sometimes overestimate your revenue, and you're underestimating your expenses. So this misalignment usually is a very common thing, and then that's when you actually fail, to align your budgets with what your actual, strategic priorities can be. So this is a very common thing, and this has happened to me, and we have actually borne that this one and said that okay, we need to look at. That's when we ended up tagging a percentage to your forecasting, saying that let's ensure that we don't do more than 5% and don't do less than a 5% in terms of your window of forecasting. Always needs to be in that. So that's when you define something. When you make a mistake, you define something and try to stick to it so that you always are on the right path to at least align to your budgets.
Okay, so now we'd like to ask you a few questions related to people management and leadership. So we really want to understand how you work with teams and how you handle different situations and how you approach leading groups. So we want to ask, how do you manage the performance and accountability within your team?
Okay. See, so this is what I have also learned through the years. So I've also had great leaders that I've worked with. It all comes with experience, but you also have your own way of managing a team, etc. So I usually try to keep it very, very transparent, and every metric, everybody has their KRAs assigned, and you know what you're doing. That transparency is extremely important so that everybody is accountable to what they're doing. So you need to clear on. I'm usually clear on what goals I need to achieve. So if I am clear, that's when I can cascade that down to my team in terms of saying, guys, this is your clear goals, this is your KRAs. And of course, as I said, you have daily stand-ups and regular check-ins usually helps in. And it's not always catering to from a work perspective, you also need to be a lot more sensitive in terms of understanding the team, their sentiments, and knowing a bit of them in terms of what they can deliver also. So it's important to strike that balance and not always discuss work. You need to have maintain that balance between, I mean, I'm not saying you need to indulge and get into their intervene into their personal lives, but it's always good to maintain that balance. And transparency is extremely important, and giving them an opportunity also to grow is very, very important. So you're it looks like you're front ending, you're the leader, but you let your team grow along with you. That's when you grow. Yeah.
Okay, so you said earlier that you've led both small teams as well as large teams. So what differences have
Yeah.
you noticed while managing these teams?
Okay. So larger teams have usually had a bunch of, like just fresh out of college. Like once, like you guys tomorrow, I've had that set of people. So that was a really huge team, like 8 to 10 to 15 people odd. So in larger teams, usually it usually requires some, structured processes, and you need to, and especially if it's a bunch of newbies, right, delegation is important, so you need to delegate it to them. But with smaller teams usually needs hands-on guidance. And also right now the team that I have is primarily, they're all senior people, right? So they're at the senior manager level, so they already have some experience. So, with my experience, large teams, small teams, the major difference what I saw was, was a fresher batch where you typically need hand holding, you need processes, you need to tell them that this is what you need to do. When you have a smaller team and much more experienced team, they usually know what they're supposed to be delivering, what they're supposed to be doing. You just have to tell them this and this, and then they're on their own. You'll have to just probably review it by the end of the week and just tell it's a fast pace to this one that they will pick up. But of course, this generation is usually faster than what you think it is. Uh, but yeah, it's in any, and I think basis, of course, structured process is very important whether you're managing a small or a large team.
Have you ever faced situations where you have to deal with a conflict within the team or conflicts between your team and some other team? How do you handle situations like that?
I don't think I've really faced a conflict as such. I don't recollect any of that. But then I think, as I said, right, transparency and open communication is extremely important. So that encourages to bridge gaps between the multiple teams that you're collaborating with. And and also everybody has their goals, right? So there is a team, HR or finance, the actual FP&A, they have a goal, we have a goal as an operations team. So you focus on your shared goals. So eventually you think about it from what is going to help the organization. So it's more about, you focus on the shared goals. So you mediate with data, you talk with data, and open communication, transparency is the bottom line and the basic necessity to bridge gaps and avoid conflicts. So I've not faced anything so far, touch wood, but that's how I try to deal with, to avoid any conflicts.
Okay, so you highlighted that open communication and transparency is very necessary to lead teams. So, what
Mhm.
other leadership traits do you think are very important to lead teams?
Uh, See, in any organization, right? So especially when you're technology based, I think adaptability is very important. You need to adapt to the fast moving technology, etc. And also, it's not about technology also, because you're working in a large company, you have multiple other stakeholders, you need to adapt to them as well. And then, as I said, communication, clear communication across your diversity. So especially you're working in a multi MNC kind of a setup, you have people with uh, diverse cultures, diversity, etc. So you need to understand, uh, you need to be sensitive, empathize, and be able to communicate clearly. I think these are the other key traits, if you might call it, is what I would think is important, according to me.
So from what we heard so far, you've had a lot of experiences in various situations, probably across the spectrum of whatever possibilities a
Mm,
manager might face. But there's
mm.
always that one project which is probably I don't know, which you would remember in a different way, or like maybe it was challenging, or maybe you did very well. So what is that one project in your career, and what did it teach you?
Okay, I probably wouldn't call it a project. It's more about it somewhere relies around stakeholder management, right? Because at least with me and my role, it primarily involves dealing with uh, people at a leadership level, whether it is a CEO, COO, CFO kind of a setup. So I think it's primarily stakeholder management and the confidence that they will get that what you're speaking makes sense to them. So through this, it maybe just taught me more, resilience and the importance of communication and maintaining that, balancing out that network also. It gives you that exposure. And stakeholder management, I think, it was challenging because uh, of course, when you're talking to leadership, you need to be confident about what you're presenting, what you're showcasing, and you need to be backed with the correct data, have quick answers at your fingertips to be able to answer it. And that is something that day to day, it's what I face anyway. So it's through experience, of course, it's become comparatively or relatively easier now, but it's still every different topic of discussion is a challenge that you have to take on the table when you're interacting with the leadership.
That sounds very interesting. And since you've already said that you worked with a lot of youngsters, and then you're interacting with them
Mhm,
too, and then one thing which we cannot deny is that like a lot of people my age, and then probably the youngsters you've worked with, are all very much dependent on AI. And
mhm,
post 2022, at least, when like the AI revolution, as you say, it happened. So like a lot of industries have been fast to adapt like newer technologies which have a lot of AI and stuff. Even the platform we are talking on has an AI assistant, like for probably some help or something. So what is the
mhm.
impact of digital transformation, automation, and AI specifically in like as you've seen in your workplace?
Okay. I mean, see, we talk about day in and day out about AI, right? See, basically, automation, it's obvious, it's in the name itself, right? It reduces your manual effort to a large extent. And AI somehow, I feel, kind of, what do you call it? Sort of enhances your accuracy in at least in my kind of a job that I do. It probably enhances my forecasting ability in terms of being more accurate. And all the digital tools that we have, multiple tools that we have, that just probably improves transparency in operations. You just need to know how to use AI in your field of work. How, and a lot of it, I think, also is through prompt engineering. So how do you prompt your questions, make it understand what you're trying to ask? And I think right now it doesn't. A lot of things, I think Google, etc., are building where they concentrate on sensitivity analysis, etc., right? Chatbots, etc., so that it's even trying to understand what a human sentiment might be. So in my kind of work, I think for me, AI basically it just helps in better forecasting, being more accurate, and a lot of manually things that we were trying to do. It's helping in that sense. And of course, there are tools also. It just helps in it being more transparent, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is like we are like approaching the end of the interview. So we
Mm,
don't want to let go of the opportunity of stumping you with this one question. What is the
mm.
one advice you'd want to give to your younger self, probably when like you just started off in the field of management, or probably even earlier, so that like if you had known it at that point, some things might have been different.
I I don't know. I mean, I don't think there was anything that I would have done better, but what I typically tell the younger generation like you guys, right? It's important to focus on building relationships earlier in your career. Like, of course, all of you have a lot of good. You'll eventually develop technical skills, etc., through learning, through attending trainings, etc. Right? So that you will naturally get. But what doesn't come naturally to a lot of you guys is building a network, and building those relationships with people and maintaining that relationship. So network is what I've at least learned it that way, that network accelerates your growth. So whatever companies that I've changed so far, multiple companies that I've changed, it's primarily through networking, knowing somebody what you are worth and what you have contributed previously. So you build net that network and that connection with. I have built it with one person, if I say so, and that network has grown in my 15-year, 16-year journey. Until today, wherever I'm working, I have that one network. I mean, of course, you need to have a larger network, but I'm telling build those earlier. That's the thing that I would tell any younger generation. Yep.
Yeah. Before you go, we would like to ask you a few rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Yes. So, which one would you choose, a spreadsheet or a dashboard?
Anytime dashboard. No,
Okay.
no, hands down.
Intuition or data?
Uh, it's difficult, but I will stick to data because it that gives you a better view. Intuition works, but not always.
Okay.
Data.
Morning meetings or late night planning?
Uh, I think morning meetings are better because it gives you significant amount of time during the day to think through and plan for your this one. Late nights usually uh, you plan and you just probably sleep over it and forget about it the next day. So yeah, morning.
Okay. So, if you had to recommend one book for like a management student to read, which book would you recommend?
I'm so sorry. I'm not at all a reader, so I don't have any suggestions on any book of that sort. It's good to read, but it's also, I would just say, it's good to develop your own understanding of how things run, how systems work, how operations work. Books will teach you, but it's a lot theoretical. So practically, the experience uh, counts a lot when you actually get into the field of an organization and a company.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep,
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. It gave us a much clearer understanding of the topic. Your examples and explanations were extremely helpful, and they've added like real value to us. I know we know that you have a very busy schedule, so we're all genuinely grateful for you taking your time out of your schedule and then scheduling this meeting with us. This conversation will definitely help us. So thank you again for your support and guidance.